Hello, welcome once again to Lehto's Law. I'm Steve Lehto. Steve passed along a story to me that he thought I'd find amusing, and yes, I'm amused. And I suspect you will be too. And this is, by the way, one of those things that sounds too weird to be true, but it's just here for our entertainment. Man, woman, that's man, comma, woman, charged with impaired driving were both in driver's seat during Vaughan crash, according to police. This is a story out of Canada. Not far from Toronto, I guess. And this is from a news organization called CP24.com. CP24.com. And the story just hit the newswire today. Police say a man and woman charged with impaired driving following a single vehicle crash in Vaughan earlier this week were both sitting in the driver's seat when the vehicle veered off of the road and struck a pole. Now, here's the thing. No matter how you slice it, you got a carload of people. I'm talking about any number other than 1, 2, 3, 4. Anytime you got more than one person in the car and the car gets in an accident and someone's going to get charged with drunk driving, you'll usually think, oh, it's the driver, right? One person. Here, the police have actually managed to spin one accident into 2 drunk drivers in the same car. But the funny thing is, the facts appear to support it on some weird level. The collision occurred in the area of Regency Gate and Franklin Avenue around 7 a.m. on September 4th. Now, 7 a.m., if you're out and drunk and you're driving, really, where are you going in your life? 7 a.m. Police say a blue Honda Civic, well, that might explain something. A blue Honda Civic left the roadway near the intersection, collided with a pole, and then continued down the road. So, I always like the way they passively describe this. The car hit the pole as if on its own. But no, there were people at the wheel. People, plural. According to police, officers arrived on scene to find a male and female standing beside the vehicle, which had damage to its front end. Police allege that the officers saw 2 open cans of beer on the road behind the vehicle, along with a trail of debris leading to the pole that had been knocked over. So this is one of those things where the police show up. It doesn't take Toronto CSI to figure this out, okay? You've got a bent over pole, trail of debris, couple of beer cans, smashed car, and 2 befuddled and flummoxed people standing next to the car who appear to have been drinking beer. So, officers learned that both the male and the female had been seated in the driver's seat and were both operating the vehicle when it left the roadway, a news release issued by York Regional Police on Friday read. So again, the officers came to the conclusion that both the man and the woman were in the driver's seat and both were operating the vehicle when it left the roadway. See, when I first heard that there's a man and a woman in the same seat in a car, it conjured up images of something entirely different. I'm sorry. I've never heard of 2 people drunk driving the same car at the same time. I'm sorry, but Investigators allege that they both failed breath tests when they were taken to a nearby police station. In-dash camera video released by police. In it, officers are heard questioning the male about what happened. In the video, the man says that he and the female had an argument about whether they should drive or order an Uber to get them to their destination. Now, when you're so drunk that you find yourself arguing at the roadside about whether you should get a ride, you should. But that's just me. Okay, and again, I'm an attorney in America. Things might be different in Canada. Just let you know that. He said while he was in the driver's seat, apparently he had basically said, look, I'm driving. Got in the driver's seat. The female jumped into the driver's seat from the passenger side and insisted that they go. Okay, so mental image here. Again, remember, it's a blue Honda Civic. Didn't have the front end damage yet, as far as we can tell. So he gets in the driver's seat, and I haven't been in a Honda Civic in a while. I don't think I've ever driven one. But do they have a lot of room in the driver's seat? So he gets in the driver's seat, she gets in the passenger seat, and then somewhere in there, she jumps into the driver's seat with him and insisted that they go. And so here's the quote that the man said, "She was sitting on top of me. Where am I going to go? She just drove off. She was sitting on top of me. Where am I going to go?" She drove off. The man is 31 years old. The woman is 26. They always put that in the news stories for some odd reason, even though their names aren't here. And each have been charged with impaired operation and dangerous operation of a motor vehicle. So in case the alcohol charges don't stick for some reason, you can just still get them for whatever it is that caused them to take the car and run it into the pole. And, accidents do happen. But when they happen because there's two people in the driver's seat, then you might have some ability to implicate them in some kind of a crime. But like I said, I read this and I had a bunch of first thoughts, ironically. But my first thought was, the police are overreaching here because they don't know who to charge. They charged them both just to try to sort it out. And arguably, if they were both working the controls in some manner, I think they can both be charged and have it stick. So this would be a fascinating one. It's almost kind of like hearing that, the zoo reports that an elephant was born with two heads. Okay? Your first thought is, really? But then, I suppose, we'll wait to see pictures. But here we go. Two people drunk driving in the same car. And that's, so we'll see what happens. I've mentioned before that along with being an attorney, before I went to law school, long before, I drove a tow truck in the city of Birmingham, Michigan, Oakland County, and would occasionally get calls at all hours of the night. And the ones that came in at night were strange because there's fewer cars on the road. And the number of them that got in accidents seemed disproportionate, especially because you realize later, people drink later in the day and alcohol is often a factor. So you get really strange calls at night, and it's often cars have been run into things. And I pulled cars out of the front, the front windows of stores. I pulled cars off of walls. I pulled cars out of ditches. I pulled cars, off of front lawns. I pulled cars off of berms. Somebody had a berm on their front lawn and the car's up beached on the berm. Beached on the berm. And then, all kinds of weird stuff. But I got a call once where the police, and I could take you to the intersection today, but let me do it visually in your mind. Visualize this. Lincoln Road, west of Woodward Avenue, about 1 mile. Residential area, little streets, cute little houses. And they just give me an intersection to go, Lincoln and this street. And the dispatcher just said, don't worry, you'll see it. Which is always their charming way of saying it's something you'll enjoy. And I get to the scene, and there's a couple cop cars, and there's a car run into a pole, just like in this story, and a pole leaning over the car, but there's wires holding the pole up. And so, as I'm walking around this, assessing the situation, I haven't had any special training or anything like that. I'm not a structural engineer. I don't know that pole's going to fall over. And the police officer goes, I think you're good. You can just yank the car out of there. We've already called the utilities or whatever. And, they're telling me to yank it. I'm going to yank it, And I realized that there's no owner or driver for the vehicle. And then all of a sudden I realized that there's a police officer walking towards us from down that darkened street. And the owner of this vehicle lived in a house that you could see from the car. And I'll explain it to you and save you all the suspense. When this person had seen their house and had turned a little bit too soon, they'd run the car into the pole and then got out and just went home and went inside the house and locked the door. So when the police showed up after hearing that this car had hit this telephone pole, and a witness said we saw a person get out and walk over there, the police ran the plate. Sure enough, it belongs to that house. So they walk over, knock on the door, no one will answer. And, at the time I'm 18 years old, 19 years old. And the police officer explained to me, and you figured this out already, I'm sure, that the person who'd hit the telephone pole had chosen to sleep it off inside the house and evade the drunk driving conviction, which would inevitably follow. And instead, we'll take what's behind door number 1, which is leaving the scene of a property, damage accident. And I believe that's also a misdemeanor. It's, pick your poison. So the police officer told me, he said, well, because I yelled through the door, because I know someone's in there, that if you're not at the police station tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock to turn yourself in, we're going to come get you. And a little while later, a couple days later, I saw that same police officer at another accident. I said, by the way, whatever happened, he said, she turned herself in. So she got charged with leaving the scene of an accident with property damage, which is a crime. But of course, that's a different crime than an alcohol-related offense that it might have been, depending on what she would have blown on a breathalyzer. So there you have it. That's my little similar story that I encountered. But again, back to Canada. The Canadians, they don't cause a lot of trouble. We love our neighbors to the north. And it's always fun, though, when they come up with something like this. Because I've never heard of this in America. Only in Canada, apparently. 2 drunk drivers, same car. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.